Hi, this is Colin Richards, President and founder of Lord & Richards. And this is our 5th video in a series on the distinctive planning process at Lord & Richards we call a Financial Independence Review. And it's so important because most folks, financial professionals that we run into, likely are not doing what we call comprehensive financial planning. In order to have a comprehensive financial plan, you need to have a written risk management plan. You need to address what would happen if the market drops. You need to have a written income plan to make sure that all your sources of income sustain you through the rest of your life with minimal risk to that income stream. You need to have a written chronic illness plan because although it's important to plan for our ordinary healthcare needs and expenses, the big one that causes bankruptcy more than anything else in retirement is if one of you, if you're a married couple, or if you get sick and have an extended stay, either in a nursing home or within home care. Those costs are skyrocketing, and they're going up every year by a massive percentage. So having a written plan to deal with that in advance is a tremendous value. And then finally, of course, a tax and legacy plan to make sure that at the end of life, we don't leave all of our money to the government, hospitals, and nursing homes. These are all critical written pieces of your plan that are essential. We know that writing down our plans greatly increases the likelihood of achieving our goals. And so we shared with you in some of the early videos not only what our process involves, but also our philosophy, 3 kinds of money. And we talked about that from the standpoint of John and Betty Sample. You may remember that they had a short-term or emergency fund. They had a growing reserve, but they really didn't have a protected red money account. So when we look at how it's laid out here for them, a lot of money in cash, protected and liquid, but not much growth we see over here. A lot of money in their growing reserve, liquid and growing, but at risk. But no money over here in the protected area. And what that did for them is it created a scenario when we tested their portfolio where the risk was far too great for how they felt, their emotional tolerance. But eventually we need to get down to the data and risk capacity. How much risk could you take and be okay? And here's the thing we've discovered, that the risk level on your portfolio, above all other factors, if your budget is in alignment, is the #1 driver of success or failure in your portfolio. Now, that assumes at least a moderate level of growth. But you might think, well, the most important thing for the rest of my life is to get the biggest growth number. But unfortunately, in striving to get more growth, we often expose ourselves to more risk. And as a result, decrease our probability of success. You say, it doesn't make sense to me. I would think if I grow. Well, here's the challenge. You're taking money out of your portfolio at the same time that you may be allowing the market to take money out. And that creates a doubling down effect. Imagine you retired in 2000. And as the market took away money, you were taking away at the same time. So instead of experiencing a 40 or 50% loss, you might have experienced a 60 or 65% loss. What kind of return does it take to recover from that? Well, more than 100%. And how often does the market deliver that, even over a number of years? So what we want to do is we want to have some money over in this third area called the protected column. And what we talked about last time is how we achieve that using our illustration of the goose that lays the golden egg. You might remember this little chart where over on the left, your $1 million portfolio, and I just use $1 million because it's easy to do the math on this big round number, is kept safe, generating a low return in that safe guaranteed tool like a fixed CD or a fixed annuity or a fixed whole life or cash value life policy. Very low interest. But what we allowed that bank, in the case of the CD, to do was to take your low interest and exchange it to buy options on the market, to get really aggressive because we were so conservative with your principal and try to double, triple, quadruple that. And we saw that depending on the asset classes we use, that range of growth somewhere tends to be somewhere in the 4 to 7% range over the long haul. Well, for John and Betty, that would have been an improvement for them. And so we came back and found that by making that little adjustment and adding money into this protected column over here, bringing things into better balance, putting a little bit more of that cash where it could grow, and putting a little bit more of that money at risk where it's safe, we could help them achieve their financial goals. But now what I want to do is I want to look at, well, what is their probability of success? What is their probability of success? And for that, we come to our income and expense review, the final step in our financial independence review process. We gather your expenses and your budget, and you can see here that they had a very moderate expense level, just about $4,000 a month. And we see that a lot, even with clients that may have several $1,000,000, is that most folks keep their expenses somewhere in the $5,000 to $10,000 a month range, depending on their level of income and their level of assets. In addition, they had a job, and they planned to retire in just a few years. They had Social Security income coming. All of these things were on the way or already in place. But there was going to be an exchange now where they were going to need to rely on the portfolio more instead of the regular income from their job. So how are they going to address that? How are they going to deal with that? Well, what we did is we built a graph. We built a graph using sophisticated financial planning software. So in the previous illustrations you've seen, we've already used multiple pieces of software to build those reviews. Now we're going to use another one. This is third-party compliance software where we put in the same input in terms of income, the same input in terms of assets, the same input in terms of goals and time horizon, life expectancy, and so forth. And we just simply compare one portfolio with another. In this case, John and Betty's current portfolio compared to the new one that involved both risk management on the blue money and protection on the red money. So let's take a look at how they would have done, first of all, on their current portfolio. So as you can see, they begin with this nice portfolio down here of somewhere just shy of $1.5 million. And you see three different lines. You see this top green line, that's their 90th percentile. You see the middle orange line, that's their 50th percentile. And the bottom dark red line, which is the 10th percentile. What does that mean? Well, the greatest risk in retirement, in addition to chronic illness risk, is market risk. And so in this case, the program is going to simulate a lot of different market environments, realistic markets, based on what we've experienced in the past, and then projecting that out into the future. You know, the order of returns is one of the most important things. Whether you get, after the day you retire, a 10 in your first year, a 9 in your second year, an 8 in your third, a 7 and a 6, well, that's an average return of about 7.5%. But if you flip those returns around and you go 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, do you know you'll have a different number because of compounding? So there are more favorable sequences of returns even when the market averages the same on paper. That's really amazing. And it compounds the effect when you withdraw money, which of course is what your IRA is there for in retirement. And so that top green line, that 90th percentile, represents a sequence of returns that worked out very favorably for John and Betty. The 10th percentile line down here at the bottom is a sequence of returns that worked out unfavorably. And then the middle one is kind of in between, as you can guess. Well, the probability of success across all of this 1,000 simulations was only 56%. And I can tell you most people do not want to retire if that's as good as it's going to get. I can tell you whether it's in the medical realm, being told you have a 56% probability of survival, hopping on a plane, that's just not a good number. We want to see that number in the 90s. In addition to their regular budget, we also in this test simulated what it would be like if they went through a chronic illness event, the average length being about 4 years, and the average cost today, as of this recording, about $9,500 a month in a facility versus at home, which is about half that. But the problem with at home is it's devastating to the caregiver, truly physically and emotionally devastating to the caregiver. So those are important decisions. We chose to simulate the more expensive of the two. Why not be prepared for the worst and hope for the best? And of course, our goal would be that you never face a chronic illness event, but how much better to be prepared in advance. So what happened when we changed that same portfolio to now incorporate risk management on the blue money as well as protection on the red money? And just to remind you, so our blue money here, that's the growing reserve. That's the money that has risk, but we want to use risk management to reduce how much exposure you have on the downside. So still great growth, but not unlimited downside. And then over here on the red money, our bond substitute, we want to find a vehicle that does a better job of growing while providing safety than just traditional bond portfolio. That's usually what is used, bonds are. And so we're going to use our goose and egg market-linked growth scenario and see how it turns out. So I'm kind of excited to see how this turns out. All right. Well, suddenly now we have propelled them forward. What you will notice in most cases is that it is not the growth rate, but it is rather the downside risk exposure that is the greatest determiner of success or failure in achieving financial independence. In addition to the other areas of planning, tax planning and healthcare planning, but we did incorporate here kind of a self-pay plan where they paid right out of their pocket. No tools, no insurance, nothing. Just pay it yourself. And so we truly put them up against a pretty rough scenario. And I was excited to deliver the news to John and Betty, hey, you're going to be okay. You've saved enough. Your goals and your budget are reasonable. And if you just invest this wisely and properly with guidance and help from a seasoned financial professional, then you're going to be okay. And I'm glad to say that at Lord & Richards, that's exactly what we're doing for folks just like you every single day, helping them to move from potentially a lower probability of success to a higher probability of success. Because the people we're meeting, they're worried about those risks, market risk, healthcare risk, tax risk, and so on. And so what we do is we just help you build a plan to achieve financial independence so you can truly retire without worry. And isn't that the goal? Financial independence is retiring without worry. Well, it's been exciting to deliver this little series of videos, and I look forward to having more available for you in the future. If you're watching us on YouTube, be sure to drop down below and hit that little subscribe icon, and you'll be notified as we have new and hopefully interesting videos for your financial education here from Lord & Richards. Thanks again. I'm Colin Richards, President and Founder of Lord & Richards, and it's been great to be with you.